starting the recording.
The summer is just getting started.
It is.
And I mean,
Although I've been 2
you're
weeks.
off,
I'm 2 weeks in.
but you've been like off. Like you're
For 2 weeks, yeah.
yeah. So you're like definitely you're in like teacher summer mode,
Absolutely.
which is a different summer mode than like a summer mode I'm in.
Yeah.
But still, summer's summer. It's
Summer's
nice.
summer.
I get a little bit more time off here and there. And
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you in summer movie watching mode already?
My intention has been to get into that mode. I can't say that I've crossed a lot of movies off the list that I've actually sat down and watched them.
Do you make a summer movie list, or is there a list of movies you always watch in the summer?
I have movies that I think of as summer movies. I don't have a official list, and I don't have ones that I make sure I watch every summer. Although there are ones that are like, that to me is always a summer movie, and so I have watched it multiple times.
Like
throughout the summer. Well, I mean, like we're going to be doing Jaws,
Sure.
so that would kind of make that cut. But so would like Jurassic Park.
Definitely.
So we're on a Spielberg kicker.
yeah.
So a lot of Spielberg actually. There will be times where I will, for nostalgia kicks, want to throw on like The Rock or Con Air or like an
Michael
old
Bay.
or like an Armageddon or like an old kind of Bruckheimer or Michael Bay flick.
I'm always tempted to rewatch The Terminator.
Oh yes,
and Terminator 2.
Yep. Yeah. But how about you? I think you do a list, or you have?
No, I haven't done a list, but maybe this year I will. So there were a lot of those like 80s movies that I never watched. Those dumb action movies. They were not movies we watched in my household. And so I tend to kind of go back to those. And I watched my first one recently, The Running Man, which was very bad.
I've never seen The Running Man.
Don't worry.
Not to be confused with Marathon Man.
Right. Which I think is a little bit more admired.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Marathon Man is for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dustin Hoffman, kind of like a suspense thriller from the 70s. Yeah. No, Running Man that's from the 80s, right?
Yeah, 1987. I actually read the book The Running Man last week, and it was fine.
Who
Steven Spielberg or Stephen King wrote it.
It's a Stephen King book. So this is another
Stephen King wrote it as Richard Bachman back in the day. But yeah, this is a Stephen King one, and I feel like you always hear that Stephen King doesn't like the adaptations of his movies, but he didn't like this one, and I totally get why he wouldn't like this one. It's a completely different movie. They just sort of took the premise and went with it. In the book, the main character is this tall, skinny, malnourished, poor person. In the movie, he's this former cop who gets wrongfully accused of... Yeah, he's his own Schwarzenegger. And honestly, I thought it was a terrible, terrible movie. I won't even say it has all the 80s hallmarks, because no other 80s movie's doing what this one does. Like, the premise of the movie is that basically these prisoners can win their freedom if they make it through the Running Man game, which is this dystopian future...
Yeah, it sounds
like
little bit like Squid Game almost,
or like Hunger Games.
Okay,
to an extent too. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is wrongfully accused of this massacre as a cop, and they put him in the game, and he ends up being very good at it, and he's killing all the people who are supposed to be killing him. And the people who are the killers, the hunters, are just these outsized personalities. Jesse Ventura's in the movie.
Yeah.
They're like, they've got these gimmicks like Buzzsaw, and he's got this chainsaw.
See, you're really
like
selling me on this, actually. Like I'm
Dynamo.
This is kind of my pocket when it comes to 80s action movies.
Maybe you will like it. But what was interesting about the book is it's set in 2025. And healthcare has gotten so out of control that people have to go on these reality shows to win enough money for healthcare for their families, or just to win their own healthcare.
You mean like GoFundMe's?
GoFundMe's and Kickstarters and stuff. Yeah. So that part of the book is just nowhere in the movie. Maybe in 1987 that felt like it was a long way. Like nobody's going to buy that. Nobody cares about that. 2025.
That'd be like that'd be like the core premise of the movie.
Right. Now, so the reason I watched it is, one, I read the book, but two, this year, Edgar Wright, his new movie is The Running Man.
Oh, he's remaking it?
He's remaking it.
Okay.
And I am interested to see whether he remakes the movie or he adapts the book.
All right.
I'm guessing he's probably going to do more of remaking the movie because that's going to be a lot more fun. But if I will say, everything I was saying about the movie would make it an awesome movie in the hands of a competent filmmaker.
Yeah, okay.
And so I'm pretty excited to see Edgar Wright's version of The Running Man.
Yeah, that sounds promising. It's funny that you mentioned Schwarzenegger and The Running Man in particular, because one thing I did do to kick off my summer season is I got a little academic about it, and I was just happened to be at the library and I saw this book in the movie section on the shelf. It's called The Last Action Heroes by Nick de Semlyen. I hope I'm saying that right, but it is specifically talking about this sort of era that you're talking about, and not only this era but this very specific genre through the 80s. I mean, it basically ended in the early 90s with like Last Action Hero, which came out the same year as Jurassic Park, and Jurassic Park just kind of smashed it. And Jurassic Park kind of then changed the game of the summer blockbuster. But in the 80s, this is what was reigning king. This was like your golden age of these muscle men, your Sylvester Stallones, your Schwarzeneggers, your Van Dammes, Seagals, Chuck Norris.
So the cover of the book is in that sort of painted style of a lot of those movies. You've got Dolph Lundgren, Jackie Chan, Sylvester Stallone, Chuck Norris, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Steven Seagal, Bruce Willis, and Jean-Claude Van Damme, all in iconic poses or from iconic scenes.
I wanted to read this because I had just watched, not too long ago, an early Schwarzenegger flick called Raw Deal, which it wasn't a good movie at all. But there were some of them that, at least as a kid, were great, you know? I loved at least the first two Rambo movies. Terminator, I've watched so many times. I treated Rocky the way that today's kids would treat like a Marvel movie. I'm just going to read this little thing he said in the prologue that I just thought was like, oh, that's interesting. Is before every movie hero had superpowers and digital effects boosted every brawl, they were the canvas on which viewers could project their hopes and fantasies. Whatever the battlefield, whether it be a jungle or a mountaintop, a 35-story building or an ice rink, Earth or Mars or a humble boxing ring, they got fists pumping, and they still do today. Anyways, it's been a fun read. It starts off with Sylvester Stallone and sort of his story of making Rocky and kind of coming from where he was, which was nowhere. And then what I guess I didn't realize was that really throughout the whole decade, him and Schwarzenegger were like bad rivals, like huge rivals.
I thought Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze was like the peak of his bad pun, like. But I didn't realize it started.
There's more than Mr. Freeze?
The Running Man, where he kills this guy by taking a chainsaw like between his legs and up his body. And somebody says, "What happened to Buzzsaw?" He had to split.
Oh, that's great.
It's not.
You get that
though.
You get that.
I have an appreciation for that at times. But the way he says it, let me give you another one. There's a character named Sub-Zero, who he kills. Sub-Zero, by the way, has a razor sharp hockey goalie stick, and he skates. And so Ben Richards, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, kills him and yells into the camera to the host of the show, "Killian, here is Sub-Zero, now Plane Zero." Do you even get that? Now Sub-Zero's just zero.
Plain zero.
Just plain zero.
They should just start teaching it that way in math.
Plain
Do you
zero.
Understand your number line?
We're just at plain zero.
This is plain zero.
Yeah, then the line would make sense to future generations.
Right. Well,
I don't know.
Are you going to keep going down this road, or?
Oh, I might, but okay. I might go safer. You know what actually might be added to my list of every summer movies is Police Story, the Jackie Chan movie.
Yeah, we're actually showing that this summer at the library for our cinema club, and the reason being, we realized we had not shown just a straight up action movie before.
Oh wow!
And so we were like, "What one do you show?" And that would be a good question to ask you and our listeners. Like, what's the one action movie? It's got to be
essential,
and it's got to be action. We're not talking like sci-fi, or other blockbuster type stuff.
Well, I think you're talking like hand-to-hand combat, violence,
basically
shootouts, that sort
exploding,
of thing.
gunfights.
But would you count, say, Heat as an action movie, or is that too much of a drama, a crime drama?
I think
crime action.
I think
drama.
A case could be made. It's an action movie, but it's not the one I would show as an action movie. Now, if you want me to show like a great like crime drama, Heat would be a really good candidate. Sure. Like, Heat should be shown.
Yeah,
to people
should see Heat.
People should see Heat. But like when we're just trying to fill the void of like a genre we haven't shown, we really haven't shown an action movie before. Like you said, I want hand to hand. I want like a person at the center of it.
Yeah.
And they're not fighting like an alien or a creature or a monster. It's them against a bad guy.
So you would count like Con Air?
Yes.
The
Con Air,
Rock.
all of those would be action movies in my book. What was the great action movie? The Nobody. The Bob Odenkirk. I mean, I would.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be the one I would show.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it because it's not super foundational. I think you would have to go something 80s because it defined the genre. Anything after that is hearkening back to that. I think Police Story is a great choice, partly because unbelievably incredible movie, but also because all those 80s American action movies were built on the shoulders of the Hong Kong action movies.
Yes, right.
No, I think Police Story is about as good a choice as you can make. Maybe Die Hard. Maybe even Rocky, I wouldn't do it. Maybe Rambo.
Now, I would actually do, personally, I would do Rambo First Blood Part 2.
No, sure.
That's because that's
one of the greatest movie titles
First
in
Blood
history. Part 2. Yeah.
You get where the Part 2 came in
right.
from Hot Shots.
Yeah. Maybe you show that.
Hey, well, I think you got to show the foundation text first.
Is Top Gun an action movie?
Yeah, I mean, I probably would call it that, but I don't know why.
Not the same. Would you?
Does there have to be?
Would you put Top Gun into the conversation for this? You want to show an action movie, sort of thing.
It's 80s. See, I'm realizing that like my criteria for action movie is really just my criteria for action movie. Like, it's not a very solid classification system. I'll put it that way.
Now,
because I would call Top Gun an action movie, but why? Like, the fighting is just test piloting.
Yeah.
Like, there's not even, like at the very end, there's like a real enemy, right?
Yeah, it's just
and that real enemy is like nameless and faceless and just kind of like, hey, it's the real thing now.
Yeah.
But then you start thinking like, there's a ton of great action movies that are around cars, and Fast and the Furious is definitely an action franchise. But before that, even with like Vanishing Point and Bullet and these great car action movies. All that to say, for some reason, and I'll never maybe know why fully, when it came down to what should we show for an action movie, Police Story was what we went with. And I think for me,
it's an incredible choice.
For me, what I was thinking was, it's probably a movie that a lot of people who come have never had the pleasure of seeing. So I think it'll be new for a lot of people there. Secondly, I think even if you don't think you like action movies, and if you're thinking of Schwarzenegger and Rambo, but you don't think about Jackie Chan and just watching the pure athleticism of this guy,
that movie's just unbelievable,
and just the wow of the stunts, and it has to be from the 80s, just so you can say without a shadow of a doubt there is no CGI going on here.
Right. Police Story was one of those immediate 5-star movies for me.
Yeah, I could see it.
I just, every now and then there's a movie that I watch and I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
And I do. And like, I want to show somebody and I show it to him. Like, actually, specifically, my dad. I showed What's Up Doc to my dad when they were visiting one time, and he loved it. And I thought that was great. And then I showed him Police Story and he loved that too.
Well, what's funny about that is those would seem like two very divergent movies, but they both have kind of that same sweet, silly sense of humor.
Yes,
Jackie Chan is great for that, for like keeping things light and funny.
Not a malicious bone in that movie's body.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just incredible. I'm so glad you're showing that, and I'm so glad I wasn't even thinking about that, but that's going to be one of my summer movies. I'm writing it down.
Good.
We saw Friendship together.
We did, together.
Of course.
Which doesn't really...
We're friends,
but I guess it's fitting that but it's such a rare thing for us to go see a movie.
It is.
Well, we've started like our little kind of Tuesday friend group. Occasionally we will now go see a movie because Tuesdays are really cheap and it's fun to go see movies with friends.
Right, yeah. And so fittingly, we saw Friendship.
With friends.
Tim Robinson, Paul Rudd. I did not recognize the writer and director of that movie.
I didn't either.
If you had told me Tim Robinson wrote it, I would have believed it because it does feel very much like his show, I Think You Should Leave.
Yes, right.
But we haven't talked about it at all. We didn't even talk about it the night of. you have thoughts?
My only thought about that movie, well,
it's hard to know what to think. I don't know if either of us loved it.
Right. I think what I put on Letterboxd, because I try to at least write a sentence or two. I kind of said that I thought there were some really hilarious moments in the movie. I was a little mixed on whether I thought the movie itself worked entirely, and I don't know how much I would want to rewatch the entirety of it.
Yeah.
But I think that for me, I just had a great time watching the movie
with your friends,
my friends.
Yeah.
Like I really did. Like our friend Tim was having the time of his life.
Yeah. Nobody was laughing harder than Tim was.
And it was great.
Yeah. It made it a lot more fun.
It was very infectious. I will always have that memory of the movie now.
For sure.
And it felt good. Like I realized, okay, I've seen me and my wife go see movies. We try to get out as much as we can to the theater. Me and you occasionally go see movies. And I think it had been a long time since I went to a theater to see a full-blown comedy.
Yeah. Some people might argue that this is not a full-blown comedy with how dark it can get.
It's a very dark comedy.
Very, very cringy.
But a movie that was intended to get laughs.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Like this was a comedy, dark comedy, but yes. And I kind of just forgot. I was just running through my mind of just like how fun it used to be to go see. I still remember seeing Borat when it was in the theater.
And the theater was pretty full.
It was, yeah.
For a Tuesday night.
I don't know. It was hard to tell if everybody loved the movie as they were watching it, but that's kind of fun too.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny when you just, when you're in a room where you're just kind of ciphering out like, do people actually think this is funny? Is it working?
Do they realize this is supposed to be funny?
Yeah, right, exactly. There's just all these atmospheric things that happened in the theater while we were watching that movie that made me think of that movie more about it in terms of my experience watching it than about the movie itself, which is what I thought was kind of like a different thing than what I tend to do. I tend to kind of want to just analyze the movie. That's what we do.
Right.
And then I felt myself like, is this part of the theater experience also, in that even as you're analyzing the movie, your experience is inseparable from that moment you were in the room with those people watching that movie.
Do you think you will watch it again?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, if it's on, like...
What would it be on?
Pluto or something.
Just like a streaming
like, yeah.
The two reasons I wouldn't watch it are... one, the experience is not going to be matched.
Right.
Two, I can't picture myself liking it more.
Okay.
Watching it alone, because it would certainly be alone. My wife would not like that movie. I like what it's doing, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I just don't need to see it again, and I don't feel like I need to dig deeper on it.
Right.
There are shades of things that you could dig into. Like, the only reason I would rewatch it is something Tim actually said, was it made him want to watch Cable Guy again.
Yeah, he said that to me too, and I thought that's a really good comparison, actually.
But what's fascinating about it is what makes friendship more uncomfortable is we are not the normies perspective. We are the guy who's going too far. And instead of Matthew Broderick and then Jim Carrey enters the scene, we are with the person who doesn't get it as they are thinking, no, I'm going to go back in there and I'm going to do something, or I'm going to say something, or I'm not going to, it makes you sit with the person who won't stop when everything about the situation is telling them to stop. I will say that I think that the movie held together better than I thought it would, because I was like, it either needs to go fully away from I Think You Should Leave, or I don't know how it would work. I think it does work that middle ground pretty well. I think Tim Robinson does a pretty good job of sustaining the character throughout the movie, but it can't help but feel fairly episodic from like set piece to set piece, with sometimes too flimsy a connection between them.
There's a lot going for the movie, but there is just something about it where I don't know what I would have wanted more, but
it's hard to say.
It's just
and it feels cheap to just be like, no, not that.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of sounds like we're knocking the movie, but I had a blast watching it.
Yeah, I'm not If it's your thing, absolutely watch it.
Yes, right.
If it's not, just stay away. You aren't there's not gonna be an entry.
If you're not a Tim Robinson fan, this isn't going to win
No.
you over. If you haven't seen that show or any Tim Robinson, it's as
Give
good
it a shot.
it's as good a starting point as any.
That's
I feel
true.
like.
That's true.
Well, yeah. So it was fun to kind of see a movie together. That was good. Well, we've got Jaws next month, so I'm looking forward to that.
About that.
And who knows? Maybe before next time we do this, we'll try to see a movie in the theater again.
Maybe we will. I would love to hear people's thoughts on the action movie conversation. What would you show if you had to show the first action movie to a group of people?
Yeah, I'm sure that if you've been listening along this whole way, you might have a lot of thoughts to share. So to listen to or comment on this or any of our past episodes, you can always find us at canwestillbefriends.net or email us at feedback@canwestillbefriends.net. And if you'd like to leave us a voice message and be featured on the podcast, email us a voice memo.
As always, we'd love it if you could subscribe and leave us a rating or a review at Apple Podcasts. Those ratings really help spread the word about our show. Can We Still Be Friends is written and produced by Ryan Ebling and Nate Goss and edited by Nate Goss. Thanks for listening.
And we'll catch you next time.